Hi, this video is on muscular system, one of the most important systems in our body. We have 11 systems and this is one of the systems. So today we will be learning the muscular system together. So I'm going to switch to the PowerPoint so that we can all share the screen. So as you can see, we are going to start with the muscle tissue, and then we are going to understand the mechanism of muscle contraction and relaxation. And then we are going to end the chapter with the different movements and exercise that we do and the involvement of muscles in the entire process. Okay, so so here we are. So let's understand what are the functions of muscles. Now, I'm pretty sure all of you understand. If you look at a skeleton and then look at a human body, it's a little different, right? So the muscles basically give you a contour of your body. It makes you look how you are. Okay, so looking at the skeleton of each one of us is pretty much the same, but muscle actually give us some sort of a contour, and it helps us to distinguish between one individual to the other. Okay, some of the functions. Number one is to produce skeletal movement. We can move from one region to another. We can stand erect. The movement part is, suppose for example, I can walk or I can speak. So there are muscles around my lips that help me in the process of movement. I can blink my eyes. This blinking is all the muscles of the eye involved in the entire process. So any sort of movement in your body is done by the skeletal muscles. And we learn that there are different kinds of muscles, but here we are focusing on the skeletal muscles. Next is maintain posture and body position. So if you take a book, maybe let me take this book, and if I can balance this, the entire process of balancing a book on your head, or the very fact that you can stand erect and walk, you can jog, you can run, all of this is to maintain body posture and body position, and that is helped by the muscles. Support soft tissue. We have several visceral organs. In the heart is one of them. The abdominal cavity has stomach, pelvic regions, and all of those different organs in our body need some sort of a protection. And that cage-like structure that protects all of these are nested in the muscles. Okay, so those the organs are nested inside or covered by the muscles so that they can be functional and they can be protective. Guards, entrances, and exits. There are, throughout this course, you will learn that different parts of the body have different sphincters. These sphincters can open and close. They can close and open according to need, and those exits and entrances can be monitored by these sphincters. We have esophageal sphincter in the esophagus. We have sphincters in the stomach. So those allow substances to go in and out as required. So these are all made of muscles, and they are very important for the proper physiology to take place. Maintain body temperature. Muscle contraction and relaxation, that actually produces movement. That is the basis of movement, okay? And in the process of these contraction and relaxation, it requires energy. What it does, it utilizes energy and definitely releases temperature. The temperature, the body temperature is maintained by the muscle because it uses so much energy for all its activities. So these are the major functions of the skeletal muscle. So let's understand before we go further is what are the different kinds of muscles. We have three kinds of muscles, as you can see it in here. One is the smooth muscle, the cardiac muscle, and the skeletal muscle. And so this is the one that we are going to focus in this chapter, but there are two other muscles and we should know about them too. Okay, the smooth muscles are usually, you can see they line the internal organs of your body. They are involuntary. That means you do not have any control on how they will contract and relax or how they will act. Okay, so these are smooth muscles. They are involuntary. They line the walls of the internal organs, and they are non-striated. Okay, they have one nucleus per cell, and they are called the smooth muscles. The second is the cardiac muscle. The cardiac muscles cover the heart, okay? They are, again, uninucleated. They are striated. That means there are striations. You can see it under the microscope. They are involuntary. So if you want your heart to stop beating right now with the cardiac muscles, you can't do it. So it's not under your control, okay? So the beating of the heart is helped by the muscles that underlining the heart, and it is involuntary. The next is the skeletal muscles, and there are 206 different kinds of skeletal muscles in our body. And these skeletal muscles are very important for our day-to-day life. Why? Because they are voluntary. We have control over them. So if I want to pick up this pen, I can do that, right? And if I want to drop it off, I can do that. So this is under my control, okay? Remember some of the major characteristic of it. It is multinucleated. It requires a lot of energy in its action. So these are the different three kinds of muscles. We are going to focus on the skeletal muscles right now, and we are going to learn the anatomy and subsequently the physiology of it. So skeletal muscle, what is the skeletal muscles? As we just learned, it is voluntary, it is striated, and it is usually attached to one or more bones, okay? These striations can be alternate light and dark band, and these are definitely, and we will look into the striations. We are going to look at at the microscopic level, how these skeletal muscles look like. Okay, one very important thing to remember is muscle cells are also called muscle fibers. Okay, they can be 10 micrometers in length, or they can be 30 centimeter in length. So it is used, they are long, they are really long. So they are called muscle cells, they can be called muscle fibers, and they are usually much larger. And in addition to that, they have some common, some very specific characteristics. Number one, they are multinucleated. They have many nucleus in one cell. They have packed mitochondria in them. And these they originate from myoblast cells, stem cells that fuse to form muscle fiber. Here, I want you to understand one very important thing is muscle. The word muscle comes from the word mus, which is basically means mouse. Since it was first discovered in a mouse model, it is called mus. There is another name for it, and that is sarco. There is sarco. You'll see the word sarco being interchangeably used with myo, and that is the reason myo or sarco both are used to describe muscle. Like, for example, myopathy, okay? It is a disease of the muscles. It's myopathy. Electromyopathy or electromyography, that means recording of the muscle activity, is electromyography. Or myoblast, as you can see it in here, these are stem cells that form muscle fiber. So the word myo should help you to remember that we are referring to muscles. Another word is sarco, which is very synonymously used in case of muscles. So now we are understanding how the muscle in general is made up of. As I said, we have about 600 muscle in the body, and this is the muscle itself is made up of few layers of connective tissues. Okay, so if you look in this figure, you will see that this whole entire thing is a muscle, and it is called a skeletal muscle, and it is an organ. Okay, this skeletal muscle has an outer layer which is known as epimysium. It's a connective tissue covering, which covers the entire muscle. So it is an epimysium covering the entire muscle. The epimysium in turn has several compartments. Okay, these compartments are called fascicle. Okay, and each of these compartments, which is called the fascicle, is covered by another layer of connective tissue which is known as perimysium. Okay, so there are many compartments, and each of these compartments are covered by perimysium. They are known as the muscle fascicle. So you can see this is the muscle covered by epimysium. Inside the epimysium, there are compartments. These compartments are called muscle fascicles, and these muscle fascicles have an outer covering, which is another connective tissue, which is known as perimysium. And inside the muscle fascicle, there are muscle fibers. So what are muscle fibers? These are muscle cells. These muscle cells, in turn, is covered by the endomysium. These are connective tissue around the muscle cells, which is known as the endomysium. The muscle cells, as you can see, is made up of, different other, we will learn about the thick and thin filaments and so on, which we will learn in subsequent slide. So 3 layers of protection, or 3 layers of connective tissue present in the muscle. The outer layer is known as epimysium. The inner compartments are covered, which is known as perimysium, and individual muscle cells are covered by endomysium. So 3 layers of protection. Always remember, these connective tissue are invaginated by blood vessels and nerves, and it is muscles are high activity cells. They need a lot of energy, and that is actually absolutely necessary that muscles have blood vessels and nerves innervated by it. So we are going to now learn about one muscle cell, which is also called a muscle fiber. So one cell, as you can see, there are several organelles that are there, and different other structures that make the muscle fiber. So if you can see, this is the muscle fiber, and each of these muscle fibers, as you know, this is the entire muscle fiber, and there is an outermost covering which is known as sarcolemma. Okay, sarcolemma is nothing but the plasma membrane of any other cell. Like we call plasmalemma in muscles, we call sarcolemma. Okay, as I had told you, so sarco is another word used for it. So sarcolemma is a plasma membrane of the muscles. Okay. Inside the cell, there are sarcoplasm, which is the cytoplasm of the muscle. And in the cytoplasm, there are sarcoplasmic reticulum, which you can see it in here. These are the sarcoplasmic reticulum, which basically wraps the entire myofibrils which are present in the cell. So there are myofibrils inside the muscle cell, and these are covered by sarcoplasmic reticulum. What are sarcoplasmic reticulum? These are modified endoplasmic reticulum. I'm sure all of you know what an endoplasmic reticulums are. And these endoplasmic reticulum help to make, help to store calcium. And of course, the rough endoplasmic reticulum are responsible to make protein. Okay, here we are talking about the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. And you can see that these myofibrils are covered by these endoplasmic reticulum, and they are mainly responsible to hold calcium in place. This is so important, okay? Remember, they have a protein called calciquestrine, which helps to retain protein or retain calcium with the help of the protein calciquestrine. They remain in the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Now, this sarcoplasmic reticulum has a certain regions, a bulged region, which are known as the terminal cisternae. Okay, so these are known as terminal cisternae, and near the terminal cisternae there are tube-like structure which are known as transverse tubule, and these transverse tubule not only connect to the inner part of the cell, but they connect, are responsible to communicate with rest of the cells also. So these bulged portion, as you say, which are known as terminal cisternae, with the T tubules, which is the transverse tubule, form what is known as the triad. I will, later on you will see the importance of these cisterna, terminal cisterna, which holds in calcium. And for muscle contraction, available calcium is almost a must. We need the we need calcium for muscle contraction, and this is where they are stored, and through these T tubules they are released, so they become a very, very important part of the muscle anatomy. So going to the next step, which are the myofibrils, which are these in here. These myofibrils are many in number, and they are made up of thick and thin filaments. And we learn about thick and thin filament at length as we go along. So how is the muscle made up of? Okay, the entire muscles. So we are going to go step by step. So you can see this is a whole muscle, and the outer covering is known as epimysium. Okay, so these muscles have an inner compartment which are known as perimysium, which is in here. Okay, the perimysium, these are the perimysium. As you can see, these are covered by perimysium. Each of these compartment is known as muscle fascicle. Okay, the muscle fascicles, as you can see it in here, these muscle fascicles are surrounded by perimysium. The muscle fascicle in turn is made up of muscle fiber. Till here we learned in the last slide, right? Muscle fiber. So these are the muscle cells, and inside the muscle fiber there are ton of myofibrils. Okay, myofibrils. Now these myofibrils in turn are made up of thick and thin filaments. Okay, the myofibrils, which are, subsequently are made up of, which is called sarcomere. Sarcomere consists of thick and thin filament. The sarcomere is known as the functional unit of the muscle. Okay, so what does that mean? Functional unit means these are the units that actually do the task of the muscle contraction and relaxation. So the sarcomere is in turn made up of thin and thinner filament, which is at the microscopic level, and we'll do that in the next slide. So let's review this again. The skeletal muscle as a whole, it is surrounded by epimysium, and these are made up of muscle fascicle, each unit, and these muscle fascicle is in turn covered by another connective tissue which is known as perimysium. Muscle fascicles are made up of muscle fibers, which are nothing but muscle cells. The muscle cells are covered by endomysium, and the muscle fibers, inside the muscle fibers there are myofibrils. Myofibrils are made up of sarcomere. Sarcomere in turn are made up of thick and thin filament. Sarcomere is a functional unit of the muscle. So we are learning now about the sarcomere, right? So sarcomeres. So myofibrils or myofilaments in the muscle fibers are organized into repeated functional units of sarcomeres. So this is the smallest functional unit of muscle fibers, and they are the ones that do the task, okay? The sarcomeres are made up of thick filament, thin filament, proteins that stabilize the position of thick and thin filaments, and proteins that interact with the thick and thin filament. A myofibril consists of about 10,000 sarcomeres. So you can understand how many sarcomeres are doing the task. So if there are 10,000 myofibrils, you can calculate how many sarcomeres are present in one muscle. So let's understand the structure of the sarcomere. It consists of two bands. One is known as the A band, the other is known as the I band. You can remember it as dark band and light band, okay? Dark, D-A-R-K, the middle second word is A, so it's a dark band, and the I band is L-I-G-H-T. L-I, the second word is I, as such, you can remember it by the word light bands. Although I have to mention that this is not that the words originate from a different kind of a word, but this for you to remember, dark and the light band is easy to remember. So this is the dark band and this is the light band. The A band has the light and the has both types of filaments. It has the thin filament and it has the thick filament. The thick filament is shown by blue and the thin filament is shown by red, okay? So this region is, there is a region in here where both thick and thin filaments are present, and that's known as the zone of overlap. In the center, there is an M line where there's a concentrated number of thick proteins. There are certain proteins present in here, and this M line is required during the time of contraction so that the movement can go towards the M line. The thick filaments, as you can see it in here, has a spring-like protein attached to it, and this spring-like protein is known as titin, okay? The thick and the thin filaments, at one point there is a Z line that divides it. So from Z line to Z line is one sarcomere. So within the sarcomere, there can be thick and the thin filament, there can be A band and the part of the I band, but this is the whole sarcomere that we are talking about. Okay, so remember these Z line, the titin, these are all proteins helping in the process to keep the thick and the thin filament in place. So the top picture in here shows you sarcomere at rest. So let's do this again. So there is an A band, the dark band, and an I band, which is a light band. The A band consists of thick and the thin filament, which is known as a zone of overlap. And in the center, there is the M line, and which is in the H zone. And this H zone only has a thick filament, no thin filament. The thick filament are kept in place by a protein which is known as titin, and each sarcomere is sectioned or is considered to be one unit between one Z line to the next Z line. So what happens during contraction? During contraction, as you can see it in the picture, that these the zone of overlap in here increases. Okay, you can see between this picture and this picture, the zone of overlap, which means the I and the light and the dark band overlap more. So they are overlapping more in the process of contraction, which really makes sense. So whenever muscles are contracting, the thick and the thin filament are actually overlapping more. As a result, it leads to contraction. So this is a very fundamental and basic form of contraction we are learning right now. We will learn at length the details of this mechanism. So what happens? So these are a couple of the same thing that I have just said written in words so that you can go over and understand it better. So as we just learned that it is made up of thick and thin filaments, right? The sarcomeres are made up of thick and thin filament. We're going to start with the thin filament and go ahead to the thick filament. The thin filament actually is made up of globular proteins, okay? What are globular proteins? There are about 300 to 4-actin G-actin molecules. These are globular round-shaped molecules which are present, and these globular proteins are held in position by nebulin. So it's basically like a garland, okay? It's like beaded garland. So inside there is a thread that goes across and which helps in the entire process.